Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the UBC TALKS webinar on local activities contributing to the global sustainability. My name is Agnieszka Ilola, and I'm a Deputy Head of Secretariat of the Union of the Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission, and I am delighted to be your moderator today with our communications coordinator, Maria Andreeva, who will provide the technical assistance and coordinate the participation and interaction through Q&A and chat. For those of you who are with us today for the first time, I would like to tell a couple of words and explain perhaps the Union of the Baltic Cities Network. Can I please have a next slide? Thank you. So once again, welcome everyone. This webinar is organized by the Union of the Baltic Cities, which is the leading network of cities and municipalities of over 70 cities and municipalities from 9 countries surrounding the Baltic Sea. And we are working together through 8 thematic commissions to foster social, environmental and economic development of urban areas. And we are representing the Sustainable Cities Commission, one of 8 commissions. And our commission is located in Turku, Finland. And we support our cities, our members, through the networking and exchange, and provide the input to regional policy development. And we have also experience in implementation and development of international projects, which provide a good funding opportunity and testing and piloting opportunities for our cities to try to find solutions to the common challenges. And our commission is dealing with environmental aspects of urban sustainability. We are following our strategic program, and why we have actually today's webinar is that the working on sustainability issues and sustainable development goals are very important strategically for the network. We have our UBC Sustainability Action Program 2030, which puts at the core of our activities this implementation of UN 2030 agenda and sustainable development goals. We want to build together more inclusive, result-oriented, dynamic city network through cooperation and collaboration towards the green, safe and resilient region. And as I mentioned, our work is guided by our action program. And in the action program, we are addressing 5 core themes, having the sustainable development and climate action actually horizontally linked to all work we do in our secretariat and the commission. So we work on sustainable water management, we address the green and smart mobility, we support our cities in energy smart solutions, we biodiversity aspect, and also work on resource efficiency. As you see, UN Sustainable Development Goals are, as I mentioned, at the heart of our agenda and an important aspect for our member cities. And the next slide, please. We strongly encourage our member cities to use various tools, and especially in terms of implementation of sustainable development goals and the UN 2030 agenda, the voluntary local reviews as a tool to monitor the progress in implementation of SDGs. As I mentioned, we have in our network over 70. And I'm happy to announce that already 5 of them have uptaken the tool and reported through the tool. So those are Turku, Helsinki, Espoo, Marmo, and recently we have with us also Kiel. Therefore, today's webinar will open up a little bit of the experiences of our member cities, and also we brought the external experts to bring even more possibilities to share the opportunities, challenges, and to get to know the voluntary local review tool, and also to get to know how we can work even more intensively on implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and anchoring it in our city strategies. And the next slide, thank you. So this UBC Talks webinar is a well-established format for exchange for our member cities, which we launched a few years ago successfully to the challenges that our cities are having at the moment with various topics, and especially to share the best practices and experiences, solutions, and tools. You can find also another formats of exchange, so please follow us also on our social media, our Twitter and Facebook, as you see, to learn a little bit more how we can interact. Before I will introduce the agenda, just very fast, I will go over a few housekeeping rules. So this webinar is being recorded, and the recording of today's session, as well as all will be published on our website at ubcsustainable.net. Your microphones are muted during the presentations, but we very much look forward to the interaction with our audience. Therefore, please send us the questions to the speakers and whatever issues you would like to raise through the chat and Q&A boxes there, which you see below your screen. And we encourage you definitely to send your questions all over the presentations. We will not ask the questions after each presenter, but we will take them up in the discussion session afterwards. And when typing your question, just please maybe specify to whom you are directing the question, to each speaker. Now I would like to introduce a bit the agenda for today. First, we will start with the presentation by Tove Levonen from Global Utmaning on the experiences and opportunities of conducting a voluntary local review processes in the Baltic Sea region and the Eastern Partnership, based on the most recent report published earlier this year in May 2022, called Voluntary Local Review, a bridge between global goals and local reality. Tove will provide us an overview of the challenges, but mostly the opportunities associated with the process, and most of all provide us with some inspiration how to use the VLR tool to advance the SDG work in the cities. Thank you, Tove, for joining us. After that, we will learn from Eveliina Kiema-Majanen from Association of Finnish Local and Regional Authorities about the yet different approach of how 6 largest Finland have joined their forces under the 6 city strategy with the purpose of working together to overcome the challenges with sustainable development in urban settings, and how cities cooperate on both the strategic and operational level. So thank you so much, Eveliina, for joining us today. And then we will move to a concrete local example on how the city of Kiel in Germany is working with Agenda 2030 and how their first VLR process was organized and executed in the city. And we are happy to have with us Lisa. Thank you for joining. After that, we will have some time to discuss, to take up the questions from the audience. So once again, I encourage everyone very much to send us your questions to the speakers through the Q&A. Without further ado, I would like to give a floor to our first presenter. Please, Tove, the floor and the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Agnieszka. My name is Tove Levonen, and I'm Program Director at the Swedish independent think tank Utmaning. And I work especially with our program for sustainable cities, where we focus, it really boils down to localizing global agendas. And as Agnieszka said, I'm here to talk about the newly launched report, Voluntary Local Review, a bridge between global goals and a local reality. And this report is based on a mapping that we did earlier this year that included 3 surveys and 16 in-depth interviews. And the purpose was really to identify challenges and opportunities and ways to accelerate localization of SDGs, and focusing on voluntary local review as a way of doing this. And we also wanted to use the report as a way to inspire local and regional governments to advance implementation of the VLRs. So that's our aim. And this project has really sprung from our previous work that we've done in the Baltic Sea region, and also in the Eastern Partnership, where we have looked at we've made tailor-made leadership programs designed for Belarusian and Georgian and Ukrainian regional and local governments, where we have had government officials and politicians and civil society organization represented. And based on a peer-to-peer approach, you can call it, the sustainability leadership program, as it was called, helped to translate global goals into local action and integrate the SDGs into regional and local development strategies and action plans. And this leadership was an eye-opener for us when it comes to voluntary local reviews in the process, because we have seen, and it's been reported elsewhere by UN Habitats and many others, that there is a growing interest in the VLR process globally. And in the mapping, we can see it very clearly, but there is a gap in approaching the VLR. And that's the gap that we have approached here when it comes to the report, and also a seed funding project that we are doing with money from the Swedish Institute. Because VLRs are a very valuable vehicle to advance local action, and it's very useful as a way of analyzing the local priorities and identify focuses requiring the most effort in the transition towards sustainable societies. And it is it's a very broad framework that can be used. And the leadership program really made it clear to us that there is a lack of knowledge and know-how on how to approach the VLR, as I mentioned. And we therefore wanted to explore how we can make it easier for local authorities to do a VLR and approach the process. So we can take the next slide, I think. So as I said, we did surveys, three of them, in our networks in the Baltic Sea region and Eastern Partnership countries. And this was to map challenges and opportunities in subnational actors' local work with the 2030 agenda, as well as looking at their experience, because the group that we interviewed, some of them had done VLRs before, and some of them were interested in looking at how they could approach the VLR process. So we wanted to look at their experience, and the gathered experience from the answers was that there are a lot of guiding documents. And if you look around and start approaching the VLR process, you can see that there are a lot of frameworks and guides. But these were often considered unclear or maybe too abstract, and the how in actually doing it was lost in translation many times. And the interviewed also perceived it as hard to apply to the local setting. And the interviewed actors find it difficult in translating the global goals to the local level. And this can be partly related to the fact that citizens and society at large might not be as aware of the sustainable development goals as one might expect. And it's also related to language barriers, as you can see there from the screen, that sometimes the complex language of the 2030 agenda can create an extra barrier between local governments and its citizens. And it can also be hard to translate into the working language, was one thing that a mapping showed. And we can see at the same time that there is a growing interest and knowledge about sustainability. Looking at the climate crisis for as one aspect, there is a growing interest among citizens. And this can be very helpful when you approach the VLR process. But as a region, Baltic Sea region still needs to face the challenges in spreading awareness about the 2030 agenda and the related targets. And the last theme when it comes to experience are the indicators and monitoring systems for qualitative and quantitative measures and data. Among the interviewees, we saw a consensus that the targets and indicators are crucial in the localization and assessing the progress on achieving the SDGs. And indicators should be adjustable and suitable for the variety of local contexts, as well as be in line with strategic priorities and actions of the representative city or municipality. We can take the next slide and look instead on how the interviewed local authorities view the VLR process as a whole. And it's clear that the opportunities that come with the VLR itself are many. And the VLR process requires an engagement and a very holistic approach to the sustainability work. And that is done within the whole municipality. And successful implementation of the 2030 agenda on the local level requires this kind of cross-sectorial and cross-border cooperation, as we talk about in every context, I feel. And several cities in the region have a very firm participatory scheme, but still face difficulties in institutionalizing the process, and especially in developing the administrative culture that really values the participatory process and see the added value that it brings. And in this work, VLRs can really help and play an important role by broadening the participation of the local community through engaging a variety of stakeholders and also raising awareness of the SDGs. So the city representatives interviewed for this report emphasize the importance of the participatory aspect of the VLR process, as it established a shared ownership of the VLR. And this also divides the workload, as well as allows cities to make use of the knowledge and tools that the process itself provides. And partnership and collaboration is the second opportunity that is very important to highlight. The international scope of the 2030 agenda and the SDGs really creates possibilities for national and transnational collaboration. And this is the nexus that we will have as a key takeaway as well, because it's very important. That is one very big strength of the VLR. It plays an important role as the VLRs become an international arena for the mutual learning, where cities can get inspired and support each other and be supported in the localization of the SDGs. And as one of the interviewed put it, I think it was Espo, VLRs are a license to act. And it's a very nice saying. I think it enables the whole organization to come together to accelerate sustainable development by defining how different departments can work together. So it's really a tool for collaboration. So we can take the next slide, please. To just summarize this, we can look at the key takeaways that it's actually needs. First of all, there is, as I said, a growing interest in conducting VLRs, and to more clearly show how the local level delivers on the goal fulfillment of the 2030 agenda. And these can be seen as action points, these key takeaways. The report really shows that stakeholders in the region need more collaboration between cities and regions outside the national context. And there is a need for additional political and financial support to make VLRs a recurring process to track progress and challenges. And we also see that a peer-to-peer support is very sought after and a big interest for many local authorities, and cooperation in finding indicators and methods and tools for how to conduct a VLR. So leaving the broad frameworks and really get into doing the VLRs and getting into creating a framework for how it can be done. And we also see that a platform for sharing experiences and existing VLRs and review, and a platform to review with peers, both in the region and globally, is something that the interviewed asked for. And we want an alignment between the national and local priorities and strategies. And a very concrete thing that the interviewed asked for is actually a shared vocabulary, because there are many abbreviations and a complex language that can easily be bridged between with a shared vocabulary and a glossary. And I think that I've talked way past my time now, but I just want to end with saying that there is a lot of potential in the VLR as a tool to compile the result of current efforts and also analyze the needs and identify priorities and so on. But to really ensure that the acceleration of sustainable development work that we so desperately need, the VLR itself needs to be combined with peer-to-peer learning and participatory tools for urban development. And there are many good examples around the world. I will post the link to the reports in the chat, and then I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tove, for this very inspiring and interesting overview of the situation with the cities and their VLR experiences. And I could not really agree more on your takeaways in terms of exactly the importance of collaboration and exchange experiences, peer-to-peer learning, which basically allows us to learn together much faster from our experiences. We will, as you mentioned, we will share your presentation as well as the link, and the VLR report that you refer to is also available on our website. So we encourage very much our cities to visit the website and also read the article about the process. Thank you, Tove. We will come back to you in a while with the questions. I encourage very much our participants to use our chat and Q&A to post a question. Tove, and meanwhile, let's move to another guest from Association of Finnish Local and Regional Authorities, Eveliina Kiema-Majanen, a senior advisor. Eveliina, we are very happy to have you, and I give you the floor now.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka, and thank you for inviting me to talk in this event, and thank you. And actually, I was so caught by the takeaways of Tove just now, and I have to say that it's brilliant to be presenting after her, because I have all the answers for your takeaways actually here in one nice puzzle, but or at least we are trying. And yes, I come from the Association of Finnish Municipalities. My name is Eveliina Kiema-Majanen, as was mentioned, and I'm here to represent the 6 largest cities in Finland. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, good. And before I go to my presentation, I wanted to say that I truly echo and agree on the need of common language I know that there were several of my colleagues or the people in our network that were interviewed for the report, and I can hear that actually coming from the messages. And VLRs truly are hard to grasp, and it can be a daunting task for organization that has limited resources, as we all do. And that's why I'm going to talk about our network and how we are tackling these challenges that we have on progress on sustainable development, and how we try to make do with the resources that we have in the municipalities and cities, even in the front-runner cities in Finland. And one more thing that I wanted to mention before I start is that I really think that VLRs are a tool, not a goal as themselves, and they should be a start of a long process of actually localizing the SDGs in the municipalities and cities. So what we do after the first VLR is what I want to talk about now. Okay, please, could you change the, thank you. So first, this is probably really something that you already know, but what I want to stress is that the significance of cooperation between the cities truly need each other to reach their full potential. I truly believe this. And across the globe, cities are tackling some of the same obstacles, obviously not all, but same obstacle challenges, and they need solutions for reaching the goals. And the cooperation that could be happening across borders, but also locally, regionally, they bring notable benefits to the cities. So sharing good practices, learning from other cities' experiences, and joining forces to have a greater say, to have a greater voice and effect on the global level, but also regionally and in the EU level, for example. Could you please change the slide? Thank you. So SDG 4.6, that means SDG for 6 cities for short. It's a network of Helsinki, Espoo, Tampere, Vantaa, Turku, and Oulu. And I am the facilitator and the coordinator of the network and representing the Association of Finnish Municipalities. But we are not working alone or in a bubble, but in close cooperation with the Finnish SDG ecosystem that we are building at the moment. So especially the Finnish National Commission on Sustainable Development, it has been a very important partner in this, located in the Prime Minister's office. Then the Ministry of Environment and the Sustainable City project. Also the scientific community, think tanks, projects on sustainable development, etc. You can change the slide. And what do we do then? So one of the most important things that we think the network can achieve is to promote the national and especially international influence of these 6 cities in the context of SDG work, and cooperation like this with the regional actors as well. For example, we made this joint statement with URBAT, Global Goals for Cities, and Nordregio, and we demanded, very nicely though, we demanded more cooperation and communication in the European level, on the European level on sustainable development. And we released this call to Eurocities in June. And what else we do? We co-create SDG tools to sort of answer to what Tove was just saying. We have recognized the need of the tools, and we already have one. We have the SDG analysis process that I will talk to you shortly also, and we are doing the SDG canvas by Helsinki at the moment that will be released later. You can change the slide. We also promote global partnerships. One of the best examples is the Monza Tampere VLR twinning project that is ongoing at the moment. It's in cooperation with the UN Habitat, UNA Finland, UNA Tanzania, and also the associations of Tanzanian and Finnish local and regional authorities. And this is something we are really excited about, actually. Obviously, everything we are quite excited, but this is something really great that we can have this SDG 17 in realization and not only in our talk. And we developed the strategic steering of the SDGs on the local level, mainstreaming, localization, implementation. You can change the slide, please. The mutual goals and various perspectives. I want to say that working as a city network, it's not always easy because there are various overlapping or even contradictory interests that the cities have. But there are always shared interests as well, not only different perspectives on SDG work or any work for that matter. So no one model fits all, yet no one is left behind in our network. And because there is this very tangible need for tangible tailor-made solutions. So we have to make this kind of tailor-made solutions for all the different unique cities that we are hovering in the network. And also these solutions need to be the kind that acknowledge the local strengths and challenges. And how I see success in this network, how we achieve success, we need to identify each city's flavor and taste, find the balance between the theory and practice, but also the verbalizing or reporting the SDGs. So it's not all about VLRs, but what you do with the VLR, the data, the knowledge. Please change thank you. So what we have already done very quickly. So we have co-created tools. We have been developing the 6 cities organizations and governing bodies together. We have been representing the network as a team. We are communicating completely effortlessly and all the time. And we are sharing and spreading good practices. Next, please. A little bit about our new tool, the SDG analysis process. You can find it through the QR code or then the link that is provided there. And it is an interactive workshop method. It was developed for the needs of the urban areas, municipalities and other organizations. And the main objectives of this tool is to increase the SDG expertise in organizations. Again, echoing something that Tove just said. There is a big need to increase the organization's ability to understand and motivation to act for the promotion of the SDGs. So it's not the whole how should I say, we need to act on the knowledge that we get from VLRs or from the organizations. So this is one of the ways that we can make use of the knowledge that we find in VLRs. And it was co-created and piloted this spring, or the spring 2022, by the 6 cities, and it is based on the prototype by city of Espoo, and it's a very participatory process. It takes some time. It takes at least 2-3 hour workshops to be fully completed, but it's really worth it. And it helps you to increase the comprehension on sustainability, but also mainstream and localized SDGs. Next, please. And what I want to stress here, the importance of including everybody, not only the 6 cities, but everybody in the 6 cities. So it's a co-creation in a sense that it encourages people to take part in sustainable development work. There were 2 development workshops when we co-created the tool. The cities had a wide variety of representatives. There were people from the city strategy department, citizen participation, carbon neutrality, environmental policies, international affairs, you name it. They all had their say, and they made the process, they made it feel like, and it was really owned by all the organizations. And there were 3 experimental workshops in Turku, Tampere, and Oulu. And those workshops were basically done to let the people of these organizations use the tool and tell how they felt about using it. So there were teachers, strategy controls, and climate management people testing the tool. We used the service design methodology, as you heard, and putting the user of the tool first. And we are currently planning to train some facilitators for this tool in the cities, and also perhaps making a consultation for introduction and utilizing this tool further in these organizations. I probably am running out of time, am I? Aren't I? So
yes,
yeah.
A few minutes more.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, right.
Okay, was this my last slide? I see. Yeah. Okay, so what I really wanted to say is that you really need to engage the organizations. It's not enough if you just report and then do nothing about it. But what I've been discussing, what the 6 cities have been discussing with me basically, is that you have to make concrete steps after the VLR and also start planning for the next VLR. Actually, Tampere and Turku submitted their VLRs this year, and Helsinki and Vantaa will submit their next VLRs next year. And we are all the time sort of having these meta discussions about the VLRs in the network. But really, doing the VLR is just the start of a long process that I remember UN Habitat, Shipra always says that it's not a quick date, it's a marriage. So we are also talking about it in the same way. You have to start somewhere, and data is a good place, but then you have to use it and let people know what to do. Okay, I'll stop here.
Thank you. That's a wonderful conclusion for the presentation, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing the experiences of 6 largest cities in Finland and your approach, and actually an interesting tool. I think definitely there will be an interest and also we would like, as the Baltic Sea region-wide network, to help you also with promoting of the tool and maybe increasing the uptake further on. So let's think how we can also organize perhaps a training and other activities around your tool. But we'll talk about it a bit later. And now I will thank you so much, Eveliina. And I will give a floor now to Lisa Eglhofer from City of Kiel. She's a project coordinator for city partnerships and sustainability. And as I mentioned before, the Kiel for the first time have done the full process of VLR reporting. So we look very much forward to hear from you. Lisa, what are your experiences? And please share them with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will share my presentation, Natalie, so you can all see it? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you very much. Very exciting to hear from all of you about your experiences. Yeah, this year the City of Kiel published the first voluntary local review. On my presentation, I will briefly discuss the reasons, the process, and the challenges what we had during the process. So first, I would like to give some background information on Kiel and on the sustainability processes in Kiel. As you see in the map, and if you did not know, Kiel is located in the northern part of Germany. We have around 250 citizens, and we are since 2017 committed to the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. So our city council, our politicians have determined that measures to achieve the 17 goals should be implemented in Kiel. So since then we had various processes have been initiated, such as the climate protection plan, the mobility plan, and in 2021 we also won the German Sustainability Award for our engagement. We are also began to link the SDGs to the city budget. So the Kiel City Council voted to introduce the performance-oriented budgeting as a model project. This fits in quite well, as we decided last year to report on the implementation of these SDGs in Kiel with a local sustainability report like the VLR. Our motive was clear in our project goal. We wanted to use the VLR on the one hand as a communication tool to make the activities and the projects of the different areas visible on a local level, also among the population of Kiel, but also to use the review as a control instrument. Like the goal is to be able to report on the status quo on the current measures, but also use the VLR to report on, and to see our challenges in the implementation of the SDGs and to define our goals or adjust our measurement. So in the first review, we only reported on 5 SDGs, also due to limited resources. You can see them here as well, the icons, which are SDG 4, quality education, 5, gender equality, 14, life below water, 15, life on land, and 17, partnerships for the goals. So I will talk shortly about the process, how we started. We started last year in October. We were supported by the Engagement Global. They are an organization in Germany which works on behalf of the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And one of its aims is to strengthen the commitment of municipalities across Germany to, for example, produce the VLRs and implement the SDGs at a local level. So this organization supports German cities a lot to implement the different SDG process, and it's a big help for us. So in the beginning of this year, we started workshops for each of the 5 goals. We tried to include the experts from the administration and also civil society and different stakeholders. I will show you later an example for one SDG of that. And after the workshops, the writing process and the graphic design again, we also wanted to make the review user-friendly, reader-friendly. And yeah, the VLR was finally published in July of this year. And it was presented to the public at an event in September among the Kiel's population, politicians, and the city administration. During the workshops, it was important for us to include the civil society organization. I want to show you an example with SDG 14, marine protection, which is also special for Kiel because we are located directly on the sea. So we identified different areas such as transport and mobility, marine research, culture, sport, tourism, and identified experts and stakeholders from these areas who participated in the workshop. And this is where we also clearly saw a big benefit in the project, in the process of creating the VRR, that through our workshops we were able to connect the different stakeholders with each other. So, but it was also a big challenge. So as the process continues, we naturally want to expand the VLR to include the other SDGs, but the challenge, however, remains how to involve the different stakeholders in the process and do justice to them. Like the VLR is only a few pages long, so it is often difficult to cover everything, and it's actually possible. But one important effect was very great, and we want to expand it even further with the next SDGs. So also with our international partners, for example, with our partners at the press, we are also in a dialogue. And one feedback from the Kieler people and from the city administration was that it's really important to report and to show the different projects and activities and make them visible at all. One challenge remains, what we also had was the available data material. So of course we have some indicators in the review, but in some cases it's just difficult for us as a city to obtain the data. Yeah, for all those who are now interested in the VLR, you can find the English and also the German version online via kiel.de/VLR. And yeah, I thank you for your attention and looking forward to hear how your cities are implementing and reporting on the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa, for the sharing with us the experiences. I'm sure that there is a lot of questions to you, because we have seen definitely that in the network we have many cities interested to start with, but actually the question is exactly very often how to start even. So with this, I will open now the floor for the questions and discussions. Once again, thank you very much for the round of very interesting presentations. And looking at our Q&A and chat, I'll check then what questions do we have. So first, there is a question to Kiel, actually, how did you choose the indicators to monitor? So I think that those indicators, the issue with setting up the indicators and the targets is pretty common, and many of you have mentioned it as a challenge, so to say, so that would be really good moment to talk about those indicators. If you could, Lisa, share, but I can also, or I would also encourage Eveliina and Tove to maybe comment on this, because I think the indicator setting is very important.
Yeah, I can totally agree on the topic. We wanted to choose indicators that we can monitor and kind of influence. We were able to obtain some indicators via the SDG portal. It's like a platform that has some indicators for the cities available. Others we worked out together with the experts in the workshops, which kind of indicators would fit. But for some, we just had no data and had to take them out again at the end before publishing the review. Other indicators we already had available in the city, so it was a mix of everything. But we want to expand on that topic, and I'm also working together with the region to get more data material.
Yes, perhaps Eveliina, you are showing, yes, that maybe you would like to comment as well on this from the experiences of other Finnish cities, like whether this was an issue in the network when cities have been setting up their indicators. Is this something you have discussed with cities?
Yes, thank you, Lisa, also for a brilliant presentation. I was thinking from the strategic point of view that many cities use and also our 6 cities use the strategic indicators to sort of not do double work. So they take the strategy indicators and then try to sort of merge them to the VLR indicators. So you use the same ones. So then they already have some of the data. But we have in Finland this pilot for city-specific indicators. It's done by the Ministry of Environment. And there are at least 2 or 3 of our cities are participating actively in this pilot. And they have 41 indicators, city-specific indicators, that they are now testing and sort of reviewing what they should take for use in their own indicator work. But it's really difficult for some indicators, at least for the indicators for the nature and the water and that kind of indicators, because they are usually national, the data, and not city specific. So these are probably some of the main obstacles in indicators. I don't know how you see it, Tove.
I agree with you. Looking at the report and the interviews, the interviewee said the exact same thing that you said. Indicators is very hard, and it's a hard way to get a grip on before you start. But looking at doing an inventory of what's being done and matching them with the strategic indicators and plans is a very good way of not doing double. And also it's a good eye opener because then you can look at how the indicators interplay with each other and different aspects. But my experience is also that the social indicators might be the hardest ones to get a grip on, because they're so, I don't want to say fussy, but I will say fussy. It's not the same kind of hard data that's and the time span is also longer on delivering on social indicators. But then we need to talk about how to, first of all, how to measure social impact and how it's interlinked with the more like cold or direct indicators as nature or water supply and so on.
Yes, please, Eveliina, I see you would like to.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Just a quick comment on what Tove just said. Yes, I remember that one of the trickiest indicator was the citizen engagement and how you measure it. And then many of even our cities, but mainly what I've heard is that they use the percentage of voters in the area, which doesn't really tell a lot in any way, but you have to find some indicator for the citizen engagement. There's really a lot to improve on that.
Please,
Tove, yes, I see. Very lively discussion.
on the citizen engagement, voter statistics is one way of measuring it, but that really highlights the importance of working with participatory processes in between the VLRs and not seeing the VLR as a final project or product. And also, one thing that's very important to remember is what kind of citizens you engage, because it's usually the common group or demographic of citizens that are engaged in these kinds of processes. For instance, we work a lot with how to engage girls and young women in planning and design processes, for instance, and looking at tools for doing that in between the VLRs is one way to deliver on that as well.
Yes, Thank you on this, and actually something that is leading directly from what we have just discussed, and I found also very interesting is the example from Eveliina, where you have mentioned this SDGs ecosystem. So of course, this involvement of participatory approach, involvement of different stakeholders in the city, like citizens, but also universities, research, etc. So I would like really to hear a little bit about this ecosystem and how, can you open up a little bit? How did you, because I think in many cities, this is something not necessarily that established, that there are those SDGs ecosystems. So could you open up a bit and explain us a little bit about this?
Sure, thank you for the good question. We are still in the piloting process as we speak, so it's not ready. We are trying to build it, but it comes from the need, the whole idea of an ecosystem, SDG ecosystem, really didn't it didn't come from the city actually, or the city organization. Obviously, they do think of themselves as well as ecosystems. And in that setting, it's very important to include all the stakeholders. For example, the city administration, but also the companies that the city owns. This is a very hot topic at the moment. But from the city level, if you look sort of upwards and see in many countries that communication between the national level and the local level is almost minimal. And in Finland, we have been really happy to have this kind of new governance that takes into account this communication and the need of like this subnational actors to sort of have a discussion with the local level, but also the national, like the think tanks that we have, the state-owned think tanks that have a lot to offer. So they are sort of many times do kind of the same things or overlapping projects, and they need to talk with each other, but they also need to talk with the cities to see what they need and also what they have to offer, but also talk to the national level to sort of have this overview. And obviously, this is a long story, but the national level that makes the laws that the municipalities have to abide to, so they need to talk with the municipalities and the cities to sort of have the real sense of what's going on with their administration in the municipal level. So all this, like, there is a real challenge of talking past each other or sort of not seeing the needs of different levels. So this is the reason why in Finland we want to build this kind of ecosystem, so the people actually talk with each other and tell what they really need. Was it at all clear?
Yes. Yes, it definitely clarifies the way of cooperation and the importance of cooperation, of course, not only on the local level, but this multi-level, which means that we definitely need to align also with the national authorities' legislations, and we need to talk with the national authorities. And this actually takes us to a new question that we have from our audience. Because, of course, when we talk to national level, we need this political commitment in terms of legislations, but also we need to release of funds, of funding, because we need resources, of course, for actions. And the better we align the local national level, of course, the better results we get. And the question is, which we have from the audience, is how to establish and sustain the actually political will to initiate the VLR process. And this probably is something that I will leave open for all of you. I'm sure you have different experiences from your report surveys with cities. So please decide who would like to take the floor and answer this one. Do you have any good hints on that? and the political support.
If it's okay, I'm just starting.
Please,
So,
Lisa, yes.
Yeah, for our city here, we had, of course, the luck that our politicians already are are known of the SDGs, and they already have this Agenda 2030 commitment, and they want to implement the SDGs and measurements for that. So it was actually kind of easy to get viral through doing the VLR or get a positive feedback. But I think in general, it is also for us, it was very important to show why we are doing it and what are our motives and what is the benefit for Kiel. So that's not only a reporting, so that's really a measurement of the sustainability management. It's like a part of it, like we are doing the performance budgeting with the city's budget, with the SDGs. So it's also important to report with indicators. And I think with that in the background, to know why we are doing it and why it's important, it should be also easier to get the politicians on our side.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more that, yes, this comes to very much to the communication. So we need to make actually all the stakeholders, right, aware, like everyone aware really what's, how can they contribute and to this process, and talking to and informing and communicating this adds on definitely on the transparency of the process, and everybody understanding like where are we going and how can I be the citizen or politician, how can I actually add on to the process depending on which level I represent. Any more comments? Eveliina or Tove, would you like to comment also on this?
Yes, just a small comment. I agree with you as well, Lisa. And cities have very different prerequisites and different attitudes. Politicians have different attitudes towards the SDGs and the 2030 agenda in general. So really finding what works in your context is really important. I think that one way is like showing the way how we work with sustainability in a broad sense and what benefits it is. Not only in terms of sustainable benefits, but also I feel that when I've talked to politicians that are not that interested in the 2030 agenda or SDGs per se, we can also, we have to push on the economic benefits of doing things properly and creating a sustainable society. So get them from the other angle, so to speak.
Yes, thank you. And I see Eveliina, you would like to also comment on, please.
Yes, these are really good notions that you already said, but pointed out. But I'm thinking two things. Firstly, strategy, sort of tying sustainable development to longer processes than the political cycle. And then obviously you always have to do the work again. I mean, you need to have the people in the organization that are passionate about this. If you don't have them, you don't really, it's impossible to do good sustainable development work then. But I was also thinking of sort of letting the cities do their things in their own way and not regulating them too much, and sort of not being really like, this is how we do sustainable development and this is the vocabulary that we need to use, but let them do it in their own unique way and sort of giving them the sort of space to create the wording that feels right for them, so that it really feels like they own the subject. And they have to in order to have the political will. But I think this is one of the things that, not to be too rigid on methodology, and even if you don't want to call it sustainable development, but you're still doing a great job, I think you should encourage this kind of work. Do the best you can with what you have, I'd say.
Yes, that really nicely also, summarize what we have discussed. And actually this communication and using of the VLR results in the cities, I think is also something very important. Could you give us, like, just as an inspiration, one or two good examples on how have you used these results of the report in your city, or for this is also for a specific city, or maybe for Eveliina and Tove, based on your reports, surveys, like have you had also those best examples, just to give also an idea how to use the VLR results? And also, would this help, for example, to for the spin-offs processes, like maybe launching of new projects and getting more funding for specific activities? So I'll open also the floor. Perhaps, you can just raise your hands, whoever would like to, or unmute yourself.
Okay, I can start then. In the report, we have many good examples and best practices. I didn't show that slide because I ran out of time, but I think it's a very good way to inspire other cities to do the VLR, or approach the VLR process. And I think that is one of the benefits of a peer-to-peer, some kind of peer-to-peer platform that Eveliina has. To really show how you can keep it diverse, even though the cities are approaching the same process. They're not the same, exactly as Eveliina just said. So I think the best practices is very, very important, and you can read about them in the report if you're interested.
Yes, thank you, Tove. Absolutely, this best practices exchange, I guess, is something that we all need, and we need much more, despite that we constantly do and exchange, cooperate, but it seems that there are those certain locks in the process which would still need to be taken further and improved. But and any other comments? Oh, I see from Lisa. Yes, please, Lisa.
Yeah, I also want to add, or maybe encourage the cities, if you're starting and afterwards it's getting easier. Like, for example, we saw in our process that in the beginning we choose the 5 SDGs, and we choose the different experts and in our administration, and they were willing to participate, but it was like, okay, but where are we going? So what is the direction? What is the goal? It was maybe in the beginning not so clear, but now we have the first report also in our hand. It's very much easier to communicate with the other experts in the civil in the city's administration, and we have a lot of people coming to us like, hey, we saw that you're doing this report, we want to participate, how can we participate? And that's nice to see the switch from the beginning, like trying to get the people together, and now we are doing the process and afterwards, and are already thinking about how we getting involved the next group of people. So I think it's also encouraging for other cities that maybe the beginning is difficult or harder, but if it's going the process, it's easier to continue.
Perfect answer and hint. Thank you, Lisa. And yes, please, Eveliina, I would like to add on that as well. Looking forward to hear you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Agnieszka, and brilliant answers once again. Easy to sort of comment after you and echo you, but one of the things that I find Helsinki doing really well is that they are, I'm sorry, I don't know if Kiel is doing the same thing, and I'm sort of just pointing out Helsinki, but I know Helsinki has this web page that they are showing the results, or how Helsinki is doing right now all the time for their citizens. And it's a really great way to engage people, and also to enhance transparency, and also show the things that aren't going that well. So really it's an ongoing process, the VLR, in a very literal way in that sense. And the other thing is, I want to point out the twinning process between Tampere and city of Monza in Tanzania. And as the VLR, actually the first VLR Tampere has ever made, that was submitted this June. And they are now peer learning with their sister city Monza, and sort of giving great advice and learning the African way of doing VLRs, and really taking the global compact or the global partnership to a very next level. But this is, I mean, they just made their first VLR and they are already so deep into the process and how to use this VLR, not only in their region or in their city or even nationally, but internationally and with UN Habitat. So really, if this pilot goes well, there, I hope it really goes, and it's going really well. So there will be other African cities doing the same thing with their European or Asian counterparts for this. So this is really peer learning across borders. Yeah.
Thank you. It's really, yes, amazing that we can actually do together on this global agenda. Allows us also to connect not only in our region, which we initially do, but also Europe and the global wild. So very, very inspiring indeed. Absolutely. And I think we have the time for one more question, which I will take now from the audience. It's a following question. Once the process is established, does it also contribute the disclosure and participation in other similar initiatives? So how can be allocated or the roles can be split? Any ideas or hints on this question?
I can maybe start from our perspective, from the city of Kiel. As I said before in the presentation, we had help from the organization Engagement Global, not only financial needs, but also with personal couple resources, because it's like also I said, we only reported on 5 SDGs for the first report because it was just too limited resources. But we are trying that the workshops we are doing with each of the SDGs with the experts, it was the responsibility in our department, the sustainability department, but we had also located one expert from each of the other departments, so they can again locate it, which people we have together, which people from the civil society, which indicators. So it's not only with us, so we allocated the resources a little bit, and yeah, so it was for Kiel the process doing the VLR.
Yes, it was well decentralized, and it definitely make a sense to do this way. But do we have any other examples on how the resources could be also allocated? And Eveliina and Tove, do you have any hints on this? Basically, no. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that was our last question. So we are slowly moving towards the end. I would give the floor still to all 3 of you for your final word, just a few seconds to final words to our participants. And after that round, we will finish the webinar and I will move to the closing remarks. So I'll give the floor now to all of you for just a short summary, a sentence or 2 of your important message to our audience. Thank you. We can start with perhaps Tove. Would you like to start?
Sure. I would just like to say thank you very much for having me and letting me present the results from the report. And I look forward to follow the process that might start here and see what happens in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tove. And Eveliina?
I would also like to thank you very much for including me and letting me represent the 6 cities in Finland. And I just say that really think about cooperation in a new way. It really benefits you more than just competing with each other, which is also what cities do, and it's healthy, but sort of pushing each other forward is the way. I really think that.
I so much agree, Eveliina. So we should move from competitive cooperation more to cooperative cooperation, right? We understand definitely. And Lisa, please.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here and to hear all your thoughts about the process. I again want to encourage the cities to report with a local sustainability report, because it's like in cities, we are the drivers for sustainable development goals. We're always talking about that, but it's important to not only do it, to only show what we are reaching in the different goals and to measure our impacts on sustainability. And it's maybe difficult in the beginning, but just start with the report. It's getting easier. Like also for Kiel, we only started with 5 SDGs now in the beginning. In the next review, we want to add some more. So just start the process and encourage the other cities to do a local sustainability report.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you all for this lively discussion. I hope that through the exchange and the questions, we manage also to encourage our other cities, member cities, our attendees to perhaps consider and hopefully start the process of VLR and working on the SDGs in this more structured way and approach. So thank you so much for this part of the session. I would close this discussion session and I'll move to my final slide. So as I mentioned, the recording and the presentations will be available afterwards on our website. And if I could have also the slide, maybe Maria, yes, regarding the possibilities. So we would like to leave our audience also with some nice kind of offer. And we know that for our Baltic Sea region, we do have a funding particularly for cities and municipalities to address the challenges that they might have in different sustainability areas. So we have an honor to announce that the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program have an open call for projects for funding in 3 priorities. It's climate neutral societies, water smart societies, innovative societies, which all nicely kind of provide a good base for funding of our SDG efforts in the cities and sustainable development goals. So the calls are open until the next year. We have a as a first deadline for core projects, the 14th of February 2020. And these are the important projects for the region with much more possibilities for having bigger consortia and having a bigger budget for specific challenges. And then there will be a call also for small projects closing on the 5th of January, and you will be able to apply for more of a software projects on the networking and encouraging more of a cooperation. We talked so much. So if somebody is new to the program and have not been a part of the project implementation before, maybe the small projects would be a part. So this is also something to look at for the cities, for really implementing your solutions and finding the solutions for your challenges in the future for a funding and from the resource point of view. I think that all of us, our speakers, are also available. We will share the presentations with your contact details if you agree. So if there are any questions afterwards, or any city would like to start the process and maybe would like to have a hint, some questions, you would be able to answer to this. So once again, thank you so much on our behalf. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. Thank you to the all audience, our participants that have put your time to be with us and spend this hour and a half. And I look forward very much to your future requests, and I look forward to working with all of you on the sustainable development goals and localization of SDGs in the future as well. Thank you very much for this webinar, and I hope you will have a nice and interesting week ahead.